Do not sleep on the Red Raiders of Texas Tech. You can't do it in 2024 unless you'd like to be a fool. Chris Level, co-host of Locked On Texas Tech, joining me here on the show. And in the Big 12, my mind goes to Utah, goes to Kansas State. That's where the betting markets go as well. And then that next tier of teams, I think, has to include Texas Tech with a 7-6 campaign last year under head coach Joey McGuire, Behren Morton, a quarterback who we'll talk to a bit later. What's the mood around the Red Raiders football program right now?
Yeah, Spencer, I think it was a frustrating season last year. I think you finished it up the right way, but it was the same thing that we've dealt with in the last 8 out of the last 10 years, give or take, was just too many injuries at quarterback or too many missed games at the quarterback position. And there's some missed opportunities there, and I think that if you can keep your quarterback healthy, people feel pretty good about what you've got. You've got a guy that's one of the top running backs in the country, and Taj Brooks. They were really active in the transfer portal, and Joey has had these top 25 recruiting classes that he's starting to stack up, and they're still semi-young. This is his third one that he's had. A lot of those guys enrolled early, but you're going to start to see some of that creep into the two deep, I think, this year. But it's and I think 7 home games and 5 out of the first 6, I think, are at home is right. So you got a big opportunity to get a lot of momentum early on in your season.
Yeah, I think that for Texas Tech, their schedule is about as favorable as any in the Big 12, and that's certainly one of the reasons that shows like this one or many others talk about the Red Raiders as like, hey, could they appear in the Big 12 title game? Yeah, they could. FanDuel's got their win total pegged at 8.5, which is a big number for Texas Tech. But when you don't have to go through Texas and Oklahoma and you look at the rest of their schedule, it lines up very well. But, for Joey McGuire, he's going into year 3. They had just a 1-win regression a season ago. He's 2-0 in bowl games, though, and has done some really, really solid things with the Red Raiders program. But certainly there have been some low moments, like losing at Wyoming last year. Not a game that Texas Tech fans would probably like for me to even bring up, so I'll apologize for that. But going into year 3 with Joey McGuire at the helm, it feels like even if they were to really underperform relative to expectations, his job would be safe. But what is that expectation?
Progress, and it's funny you mentioned, Kansas State and Utah. Kansas, I think, is kind of mentioned by a lot of folks.
Oklahoma, you have to mention Oklahoma State in the Big 12.
Yeah, and of those schools we just mentioned, Oklahoma State is the only one on Texas Tech's schedule. So you miss both Kansas schools. You miss Utah. You do have to play at Arizona. You do have Oklahoma State, and you've got your TCUs and West Virginias, which are kind of in that meaty middle of the Big 12. And I think the Red Raiders are right there in the thick of things. But expectations here, I think you want to be, and I probably said this to you before the Red Raiders played Oregon last year when you and I had a conversation. We were doing on a different show, and we were talking about something similar. And I think I said to you, you want to be relevant in the conference race into and maybe even well into November, because that really sums up, do you have a chance at the conference championship game? Are you already out? What's the thought as you kind of end October and you get into November when there's those games are like, okay, we only have 2 or 3 left. How important are they? And I would say the same thing here, but you just want steady progress. And I just would love to see what it's going to look like if you can keep somebody like Behren Morton healthy and allow him. Now, they do have more depth at that position now and some more, some more options there. But I do think that it's all about being relevant in the conference race into November and then just showing progress with the program in general. Joey's done a great job here. People are thrilled. They love that he's recruited well. There's a lot of, excitement about the program. They're in the midst of a $250 million renovation to one whole end of their stadium that, they're going to be, that'll be ready for this fall. And so a lot of excitement about this football team for sure.
Now, on that stadium renovation, are they going to have like tortillas built into the seats? Are they going to like float up where you've got a cup holder? There'll be a tortilla holder Instead, if
I
you know,
love that you love that so much. I
I
love
can't
that
get
you are.
enough. I can't get enough of it, man. I
Yeah.
cannot get enough. I remember when Oregon, had him on the schedule. A friend of mine who was a Texas fan texted me, and he goes, "Get ready for tortillas," and I was like, "What?"
What? Yeah.
He goes, "No, no,
It's
no, 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 literal tortillas." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Watch the game. They have tortillas." When you talk about the best traditions in college football that give it the pageantry and electric nature that separate it, in my view and the view of many others as well, thankfully, from the NFL, Texas Tech and tortillas. There's nothing quite like it. So
I appreciate that you love it so much. That
you're
does my
it is well
my heart
deserved.
good.
It is
Yes.
it is well deserved. But another thing that's well deserved for Texas Tech is I think the excitement around Behren Morton, who's one of the higher quarterback recruits that Texas Tech has had, is my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong there. And he played, over the second half of last year, and boy, he showed some real potential and promise. And as spring football gets underway for Texas Tech as they go throughout, what do the Red Raiders want to see from their fall signal caller?
And as he rolled through when he took over and Tyler Shuck was injured, Barron basically got hurt in the game that he comes in for Tyler Shuck. He goes down, or he gets hit with a shoulder issue, and so he played. Anybody that saw Behren Morton play, he was playing through a shoulder injury, an AC sprain, pretty severe one all throughout. We're talking not practicing Monday through Friday and then just kind of getting through the game and then trying to get ready for the next game by not practicing. Pretty tricky timing and chemistry and all that. He's healthy now. They've got some weapons. They have one of the top recruits in the entire country who's a receiver out of Lake Belton named Micah Hudson that he's going to get to throw the ball to. And a guy that, a lot of people on the West Coast are familiar with, Josh Kelly, but Washington State was nearly 1,000-yard receiver for the Cougs. And so so they've got more speed and ability to stretch the field more. But yeah, Behren, he's a dual threat guy, but he's a gunslinger at the end of the day. I mean, he's going to drop those arm angles, and I don't want to say necessarily like Pat Mahomes, but he's wearing a Red Raider uniform, and Pat was kind of outside the box a little bit, and he kind of dropped those arm angles because they're both former baseball players, and so. But I think there's a lot of expectations and excitement about Behren. But again, it's all about availability with him. It's the same thing that we said last year about what Tyler would have gone through. And when they were there, the results were good. But when they're not, and you got to go down the depth chart a bit, it's a bit tricky.
Successful head coach going into his third year, promising young quarterback, good recruiting classes, program momentum in general, with a schedule that avoids the top three favorites in the conference for the conference championship, at least according to our friends at FanDuel. What's a successful season like for Texas Tech? What's a good record?
I think you have to get into the 8-win territory at least. I think that's what, with 7 home games and not anything on your schedule that you look at and go, oh, that's gonna. I mean, there's just not a lot there that just scares you. But I think you gotta. So to me, it would be hitting that over on that win total. I think if you do that, and whatever that looks like, I would say successful. If you get 8, depending on what it looks like, or less than that, maybe you left a little meat on the bone. But again, if you get 8 and your quarterback missed half the season, then that's got some different context. But I'm going to say if you go over that win total, I think you're feeling pretty good about things because that's progress. And I just want relevant games in November as it relates to the conference race with a chance to go to Arlington and play for the Big 12 title. To me, I think you will have done yourself well if you can say those things.
Is the country ready for a 10-2 Texas Tech team? We'll just have to find out this fall. Chris Level, Locked On Texas Tech. Thanks so much.
Appreciate you, Spencer.
Dark horse Heisman contenders. Are they on your team? Well, they might be. You're just going to have to stick around.